Thank you, Dallas. We're now in the home stretch. Thanks for sticking with us. Time to bring it all together. So, how do we sequence all of this? We've built the strategy essentially around 3 stages. Stage 1, we want to maximise the catalyst we're getting from our existing funded programs, which gets us through the end of the healthy volunteer component of phase 1. Stage 2 is then about expanding access to growth opportunities by implementing some of the platform initiatives that Dallas has talked about and extending our proof of concept and initial discovery efforts on new targets. That will then put us in a position to start significantly accelerating the growth of our pipeline and partnerships. In the interest of time, I'm going to skip over just a couple of slides here. AD214 in the clinic, just to reiterate, is a major catalyst for us that validates that we can develop drugs off our platform. It is key to unlocking the opportunities ahead of us. We are funded. We had $5 million in the bank at the end of December. We are funded through and we have cash reserves that will enable us to complete the healthy volunteer component of, so part A of the phase 1 program, and demonstrate the safety and pharmacokinetics of our product. This slide really talks about the sequencing. So our current catalysts: phase 1, healthy volunteer, safety, pharmacokinetics, AD214. PET tracer developed. Target selections for our internal pipeline done. GE contract, our first partnering contract, continues to be executed, and we've done all of the design work around the platform enhancements. The expansion phase starts kicking off middle of this year to next year. We're now completing our patient single dose safety, so this is the first part of part B of the program. Adding additional preclinical IPF data, proof of concept in new indications. All of this is opening up the options that we have in front of us for AD214. Internally, we can start panning, This is the early discovery process on our iBody 2.0 library. And we're now aggressively filling our partnering pipelines. The acceleration phase is where we start to invest significant cash to drive those proof of concept programs through into mainstream development. This is now where we're exercising the options we've created in the previous phase. I'm not going to go through this slide in detail. Suffice to say, it's here to demonstrate that we've got a pretty clear roadmap of the activity we need to undertake in the next couple of years to realise the vision I just talked about. We believe all of this is achievable and realistic expansion, and it's a realistic expansion of both human resources and a not unrealistic expenditure of capital. It does, however, require continued financing, and we are exploring a diverse range of financing strategies. The first and the best source of finance is obviously revenue coming from our partners. Today that is limited to our GE contract, and our platform partnerships will generally be relatively low margin projects as well. We're aspiring to low double-digit percentages of total costs being covered by our platform partnering. And again, that will essentially be ploughed back into our external pipeline in any case. AD214 licensing, the first partnering window will open late phase 1 as the patient data starts to come out. We will consider regional deals earlier than that. There is active interest from a number of parties in the product. Most of them do expect that phase 1 data before they'll act in any case, and so we need to work through to that point. And as you've seen, the cost of phase 2 may not be high. And if it isn't, the value add of going into phase 2 with a relatively low expensive thing may trump any deal from an ultimate value creation point of view. So we're actively working to partnering in that phase 1 window. We're not committed to partnering in that phase 1 window if there is a more attractive option for shareholders ahead of us. Lending is probably the least attractive way of financing a biotech company. Today we're really only using the R&D tax lending facility, and we only use that to smooth capital across the year rather than running out of money in the third quarter of any given year and then getting a big check from the government in October. That just makes no sense whatsoever. So by smoothing the capital, the cash from the R&D loan, we simply make sure that we're not raising just because of timing. Grants and collaborations, we're continuing to be very active in this space. The biggest one obviously is our $1 million BTB grant. We also have another NHNMRC grant that we're working with Carol Pollock and the Uni of Sydney that's funding the kidney proof of concept work. We have a number of other grant opportunities that we have applied for. We'll continue to do this, but typically this is a way of funding really early stage development and isn't going to fund the really heavy investments in progressing projects through the pipelines. Which leads us back to the need for equity capital. It'll be the question on everyone's mind, I'm sure. Yes, we will need more capital. I'm not going to stand here and pretend that we're going to be self-funding from this point onwards. We're certainly working very hard, as you've seen, to ensure that we are minimising the amount of equity capital we have to raise. But the reality is we are a biotech company developing assets that get monetised when we get into a certain point in development. And we want to expand the number of products and that we have in our pipeline. That's going to require more capital. We're working on the strategies, the options, the mixes and the timings with which we will raise that capital. And a key part and objective of today was to lay out our plan so we can actually start having conversations with our existing shareholders and our existing stakeholders with the full visibility for them as to what we're trying to do. Those conversations were going to be much more difficult without putting that strategy and vision and plan out in front of them. So now that we've had that, now that we've shared the plan with you, our next steps are to engage with our existing stakeholders and new stakeholders to explore what's the right way and pace of funding. Importantly, our plan is such that you can see there's multiple different modules, so we can flex the plan depending on the available resources. We have a clear priority of what we want to invest in first. We know where we want to get to, 5 products, but how long we get there is going to be dependent on the level of financial resourcing that we have available to us. So let me close with a very quick summary on what you can see coming. We've had a great start to the year. BTB grant, preclinical data, PK data is all setting us up really well to go into phase 1. Through the middle of the year, you'll see progress on the PET tracer. There'll be preclinical data coming out on the bleomycin mouse model for the PET tracer. Our ethics approvals, our phase 1 healthy volunteer studies will start, and by the end of the year we should see the results of the phase 1 healthy volunteer studies. So in summary, AdAlta's strategy is built around an iBody platform capable of developing multiple products against difficult targets. The strategy we're announcing today is about accelerating the company from being a single product company to a multiple product company with multiple internal development programs and multiple external partnerships. Our most important asset is our first-in-class lead asset AD214, and we're working extremely hard to drive that into the clinic and phase 1 clinical trials in the middle of this year to provide the catalyst for our growth. Importantly, we have a clear plan to use that catalyst and our iBody platform to accelerate the expansion of our pipeline. We'll do that internally with a clear focus on the sweet spot of GPCRs in fibrosis, inflammation and oncology. I'll do it externally with partners who bring targets of their own and specific biological expertise in other more complex therapy and target areas. We've got an experienced team, both at executive and board level and advisory board level, driving the process, driving execution, and with a strategic focus on establishing a foundation to deliver this growth. And we're looking forward to continuing to develop the networks of partners, stakeholders and investors willing to share in this really exciting journey that we have in front of us.